Everybody, this morning I am in Plainfield, Indiana, and actually right here in front of me, looking kind of into the sun, this is Splash Island, which is a really cool outdoor water park, and it's super popular in Plainfield. But a lot of people come around from Indianapolis and even where we live, way out east in Greenfield, been here and checked it out and used it because it is awesome. There's a heck of a lot here to do, and it's awesome for the kids. But you'll notice right now, it's not very busy because it is closed. It is fall in Indianapolis, and so we're going to talk in this video just a little bit about what you can expect in the fall, so stay tuned. Hey everybody, I'm Jason Compton with the Compton Home Group. Welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time to the channel and you want to know everything there is to know about not necessarily Splash Island, but Plainfield, Indiana, Indianapolis, Indiana, Carmel, Indiana, Greenfield, Indiana, like I'd mentioned, Fishers, Indiana, Greenwood, Indiana, any of the cities and towns that surround Indianapolis and Indianapolis itself, then make sure you hit the subscribe button. Also tap the little bell so you're notified every time we do a new video. Now we have people reaching out to us from all over the country with questions about Indianapolis, of course, but a lot of questions just about those cities and towns that surround Indianapolis. So if you are one of those people, there are a lot of people that are moving to the area and have questions, of course, about what it's like to live there. If I were moving anywhere else in the country, I would absolutely have a million questions about any place that I was thinking about moving to. So with those questions, reach out any way that you know how. We'll always have your back with those, and we'll certainly have your back when it comes time for you to make your move to the Indy Metro. All right, again, guys, I'm at Splash Island, and it's a little sad that it's closed. You can see the entry right here once you get out of the sun, and some pretty awesome water slides in there, and splash pad, pool, I mean, you name it, it's got it for pretty much all ages of kids. So you got a 2-year-old, 1-year-old, 3-year-old, something like that. Pretty good place for them. Certainly a good place when your kids get up to 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and even for somebody like me who's in their late 40s and likes the pool and likes to goof off in the pool. So a pretty fun place to be, but it's closed, and that's typical for this time of year. It is September in Indianapolis, Plainfield, Indiana, actually right now, and that's just what happens in the Midwest. People often ask, are there pools in the Midwest? Are there pools around Indianapolis? Do people have them at their house? And the answer is absolutely. It's not going to be nearly as common as somebody who lives in Arizona, Phoenix, Scottsdale, or Florida, or all along the South, where it's warmer much longer during the year, but it's September, and today it's actually phenomenal. It was really cool this morning. I actually had a little sweatshirt on and felt really nice. Just the other day, in fact 2 days ago, today's high is gonna be about 70 degrees, but 2 days ago it was 92. So while we get into September, the first day of fall is usually around the 20th, 21st, 22nd. When it hits fall, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're gonna get fall weather all the time. You could still get that summer weather in Indianapolis. Through September, it is not unheard of to hit 90. We can definitely do it. Pretty rare to really do it much, but to be in the 80s, yeah, I mean, absolutely can. It could be 82 degrees, 85 degrees. That's starting to get a little bit warm, but around 80 degrees in September, not unheard of. But pool season here is usually Memorial Day to Labor Day. Now, there are times where we do get that summer that extends a little bit. So this year was kind of a warm summer, and so we had pools in a lot of neighborhoods, community pools, that were open past Labor Day. They were open a week past or 2 weeks past. But you start to get to the point where the nights are getting cool enough where you might be in the 80s during the day, but it's now starting to get down into the 50s at night, and it's hard to keep that pool warm. So they end up shutting it down for the season. Drain it, cover it, whatever it is that they do to keep it through the winter and into next spring. And Memorial Day, honestly, it can be a little chilly swimming Memorial Day, even though the temperature outside, it's pretty funny how it works. It can be winter and spring comes and it's kind of cool, kind of nice, and then boom, it starts to get hot. Right around Memorial Day, race weekend, is where a lot of times that heat just hits and it's instantly hot. The pools can still be a little bit chilly and cool. That sun is actually kind of warm this morning. Stay in the shade. So here in the fall, it's incredibly nice as far as the weather's concerned. It's one of my favorite times of the year. We're getting out of summer. We're getting away from those days where it's upper 80s or close to 90 and the humidity starts to go away and the mornings are much cooler. But just like with all seasons, it takes a little while to get into it and to stabilize. So a lot of people will start getting excited about fall and the cool weather once Labor Day hits, but it's not that cool until you get deeper into September for the most part. People get their fall decorations out, start to get long sleeves out, pants out, jackets out, but it's not quite there yet. And we do get some volatility. Every single season in the Midwest, we do get 4 distinct seasons. It's not like Southern California or deep into Texas or the deep south, where you kind of have two seasons, where you had a milder one and then a super hot one. Here we got 4 distinct ones. We've got a really cold winter, and we do get a little bit of snow, not a whole lot, really just a little over 20 inches a year. Well, it's not a tremendous amount, but it's cold. And then we have hot summer. They're not blazing desert heat, and they're not as humid as it is in the south, but we do get a little humidity, and we do get some heat. We can crack 90 degrees here, no problem. We can get into the upper 90s sometimes. It's rare, but it can happen, and it has happened. In fact, this year it did happen multiple times. We had a lot of days over 90 degrees. But every single season, before it gets to that stable condition, it's volatile. So the spring, I would say, is probably the most aggravating. You're going through this long, cold winter, and then once March hits, you start to get the teases where it gets into the 50s. It might get into the 60s, but then it screams back down into the 30s and 20s. And then when you get into early April, really get teased, where you might get some days in the 70s, and then you freakishly get a day in the 30s in early April. But at that point, the nicer days are starting to get more common, they're starting to be more numerous, and the weather starts to stabilize, especially when you get into May. And by then, of course, you're deep into spring. The first day of spring is March 20th, 21st, 22nd, somewhere in there. And you've gone the rest of March all through April to try to finally get to that stable spring weather. And then it doesn't stay that way forever, and you start to get the hot days mixed in there, and summer starts to kind of creep in. But then through June, July, and August, it's pretty stable. And then September, this is a great example. Today, about 70 degrees or so, but just 2 days ago, it was 92. It's gonna be volatile until we can get it stabilized towards the end of September, early October, and then it's just, October here is gorgeous. So you get all the trees starting to change colors, you get the cooler mornings, you get cooler days as well, where a lot of days where it's around 70 degrees or so, and it's just so pleasant. And then of course, we get more volatility as we get towards the end of October. Like Halloween as an example, I mean, I can remember even with our own kids trick-or-treating, there's a couple Halloweens where we didn't even go because it was in the 30s and raining. That's miserable. We went to a couple houses, one of those times, too miserable for us, so we went back home. But I can also remember Halloweens where dressed exactly like I am right now, where it was 70 degrees, gorgeous and sunny, and you could wear whatever you wanted to as far as your Halloween costume is concerned. But you know, if it's 30s or 40s and kind of rainy or just super cold, your Halloween costume is going to have some warmth to it. You can't have anything that's super thin, doesn't cover a whole lot. It's something that you have to take into consideration. You can't have your Halloween costume picked out 6 months in advance, let's say. Sometimes a few days before Halloween, you might have to call an audible and make something a little bit warmer. It's kind of weird when you got a winter coat on, yet underneath you've got a swimsuit on of some kind because you're going as a Olympic swimmer or something. That's a popular Halloween costume, but if you can imagine somebody in a Speedo as an Olympic swimmer, pretty tough on a day when it's 40 degrees and just not very sunny, kind of windy, and maybe even a little bit rainy. Pretty rough. So you might want to actually put a coat on and be something a little bit different. So with the seasons, including the fall here, even though it's a beautiful time of year, it's one of my favorites because of getting tired of the heat, getting tired of mowing the grass, getting tired of taking care of the landscaping around the house, wanting everything to slow down a little bit. And the summers are hectic, fall can be hectic, but as you get into the winter, it does feel like things do slow down and stabilize, and the weather does that as well. It is really a unique experience living in a place that has 4 full seasons, because you do get that volatility before you get into the more stable season that follows the previous one. So if you have questions about the fall in Indianapolis or any of the seasons in Indianapolis and what it might be like because you've never experienced it in your life, then reach out any way that you know how, and we'll catch you in the next one.